stranger to airwaves in the Twin Cities. Her name is Roxane Battle, former anchor with KARE 11 Television. Now she's an author, continues to be a media personality, and she's got some pockets of joy to share with us today. Hi, Roxane.
Hey, Roshini, it's great to be with you. And the fact that you introduced with the happy song, I mean, that's like write a book to make people happy, right?
Yes, well, I thank Kyle for pulling that one out of the vault. And it is a book that you had not a lot of happy things, or I shouldn't say it that way. There were some unhappy things happening while you were a news anchor here, but you had to keep it together because you could not bring sadness to the airwaves when you're in that anchor chair.
Well, I just, and I think maybe I took it to an extreme with the poker face. You know what I mean? I mean, you're on the air every day, polished and pristine and doing the news and good, bad, and the ugly. But I never really talked much about my personal life. People knew I had a little boy. But what they didn't know is that when that little boy was born, he was 11 months old and I got a divorce. And I had to raise him by myself until I got remarried, which is like 13 years. So not to say that, as you read in the book, that his dad was there for him all the time. And we developed a co-parenting relationship, which was great. I give his dad total kudos for being the man in that regard. But as far as my on-air personality and the work I had to do, I was, this big happy face on TV, and then you had to go home and put your life back together. And so I was very, very determined not to sort of let that bleed over into my on-air persona, and maybe to a fault, because I wasn't really that open of a person. I was really sort of closed off. I had a wall, if you will. I think if you talk to some of my former colleagues, it was sort of, to be unkind or kind would be standoffish. And so that was kind of the impetus to write the book. As you know, I was on TV in this market for a very long time. The viewers are really kind to me. They loved the TV shows and the stories, the storytelling that I did. And I just thought, it's just really time to sort of open up and use this unfortunate thing that happened to me, my marriage ending, as a vehicle to inspire people. When I showed the book to my editor, the manuscript, she said, Roxane, a lot of women in your situation, they would just beat the guy down. He's a bad guy.
And you really didn't. I read the book, and you really don't beat him down. You point out that he is a good father. He wanted to be there for his son, and you and he figured out a way to co-parent, as you say.
That's exactly right. And I think that's why that's why the publisher took the book on, even I custom published. But she said, you could have very easily walked in here. The publisher is telling me, you could have really walked in here and done a woe is me story. Oh, look at all the bad things.
Because frankly, that sells too.
It does. This Pockets of Joy, Deciding to be Happy, Choosing to be Free is a different type of book. It's a book that says, look, crappy things. Can I say that on the radio?
You just did, babe.
Bad things happen. Bad things happen to people in life all the time, okay? But there's joy and happiness that can be found if you look for them. And that's not just a statement. That's just kind of my story. And chapter after chapter after chapter, I talk about what I went through in my life and how I was able to find pockets of joy while piecing my life back together personally and developing this career of mine on television professionally. And I talk about those two things in the book.
One of the things that I found really stunning was that you shared that there were times when you had to choose who would eat, your son or you. And obviously you chose your son every time. But I'm sure any viewer who was watching you at that time would have been just completely stunned to know this woman who, with that smile, that big smile, dressed nicely on the air, was worrying about eating.
Well, there were a lot of bills. There's a divorce attorney to pay. There's clothing and hair and rent, and car payments and daycare. And when you're a single mom, yes, television paid relatively well, but I certainly wasn't making anchor money at the time. I was a beginning reporter, so you can only imagine what that salary was at the time. Yeah, there's a story I tell in the book about a chicken nugget. And when my mother got to that chapter in the book, she put it down because she had no idea. That's, Roshini, was how good I was
at covering it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking with Roxane Battle. She's a former Twin Cities news anchor at KARE 11, and she is an author of the book Pockets of Joy, really wanting to take some of the turmoil from her past and turn it into a zone where you can find joy. Now, this book might be targeted more at women, but there are a lot of things that single dads can learn from this. Anyone who might feel like they're in a pit and really can't see the sky.
Well, exactly. And it's like, the statistics are that a lot of people get divorced. And so it's for anybody that, it's so funny, Roshini, on this tour with the book. It's like every studio that I've walked into, there's somebody who can relate to this story, either themselves personally or they have a family member, and it's like on Amazon, I'm in the single parenting category. And within the first 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, I shot up to number 17 with this book. And it's since, we're hovering right around the top 100. But when you think about the myriad of books out there, to custom publish a book that sort of breaks through and has an impact about, yes, bad things are going to happen in life. The silver lining sort of fades, but there are still ways to find joy and happiness in life if you look for them. I'm very pleased that people seem to be inspired by it.
I want to invite people to join the conversation. If you want to talk with Roxane, maybe get her advice, share your story. If you have any kind of question, send us a text, 81807, or call 866-989-9226 or 651-989-9226. It's not every day you get to directly talk with someone like Roxane. She really has a lot of joy to give and share, and I would love for you to join the conversation. One of the stories that was really interesting, it was poignant, it was touching, was when you were selected to be on the cover of Working Mother magazine. Yeah. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, I see you looking at the book, and it's a wonderful thing. I selected color photographs from my personal life, and I put them all throughout the front and back cover of the book. So those are photographs that I took myself from, my little boy, and there's a picture of the cover of Working Mother magazine. I so very much wanted to be on the cover. It was a goal. It was like my bucket list. And because I was on their readers
panel. You were
panel.
A reader.
I was a reader. And so mothers would call in, or write in rather, with little tips about, how do you deal with potty training, or how do you deal with bedtime? And I thought to myself, I could do that. So I wrote into that magazine year after year after year after year. And then one day they had a contest about, you could be on our cover, write us an essay about why you work. And they were going to pick 11 women, Roshini, in the country. That's it. And I won. I was one of the 11 that flew to New York City, and it was an all-day photo shoot. They fed me. They did my makeup. They put me in a dozen outfits. But I think you're touched by the story of
the photo shoot.
The photo shoot, where here I am in all this makeup and these cashmere sweaters. There's a photographer. There's a craft services lady. The editor of the magazine was there. The wardrobe lady was there. We're in this big, fabulous studio in New York City. I'm sitting in front of the lights with the photographer. And everybody is giving me all his attention. They've flown me to New York. I'm this single mom in this amazing experience. They put me in this swanky hotel. And I'm sitting there in the afternoon of the photo shoot, and they're giving me all this attention. And I just burst into tears. Just started just bawling because I just couldn't believe what was happening to me. And that's kind of what the book is about, is that, yes, flying to New York City for a national magazine photo shoot is a big, sloppy splash pocket of joy. But there are also these tiny little eruptions of joy that occur through our life.
Like these people taking care of you and making you feel like a rock star at that photo shoot.
Who'd have thunk that something like that would happen to me in the middle of this situation that I was trying to put my life back together in?
Yeah, so. Well, and I think it also lets us all see that you've got to go beyond the soundbite or beyond the image on TV or in magazines to really understand that people at the time, you were definitely a local celebrity. You had a life too. There are things going on, and of course, you wanted to keep some of them private, and that's your prerogative. But it's not always what you see on the surface, and maybe we can give each other some grace.
Exactly, Roshini. Grace, and I think the word that my publisher used, who I love, her name is Lily Coyle, by the way, great lady, love her, and Hannah, my project manager over at Beavers Pond Press, great people. But she used the word dignity. But it's like, I thought if I could use my former platform as a news anchor to say, hey, I had the celebrity life. I had what people thought was the ideal life. You know, you got on great assignments, you're on TV, had great clothes and hair and makeup. If I can use that very visible platform to say, you know what, my life wasn't perfect, but I found ways to be happy. And here's how I did it. I mean, that really, Roshini, was the reason why I wrote the book, that I just wanted to be honest and authentic. And the years between like this very moment and the moments that I left TV, that space in between there is where I found my authentic self. I got away from the call letters and I said, who am I? What am I about? And it's about joy. It's about finding those pockets of joy. And that's a decision. That's what the subtitle is. Deciding to be happy, choosing to be free. Happiness is a direct result of the choices we make in life.
Absolutely. You can make that choice. I'm talking with Roxane Battle, former Twin Cities news anchor, now author of Pockets of Joy. We've got some texts coming in I want to get to after we take a quick break. When we come back, though, if you want to text 81807, if you want to talk directly with Roxane, 651-989-9226. We are having fun and some joyful moments with Roxane Battle. Roshini Rajkumar with you. We are winding it down on this 4th of July weekend. Roxane is in studio. She's a former Twin Cities news anchor with Carol Levin, now author of Pockets of Joy. Some text questions and calls coming in, Roxane, so I want to definitely get to them. All right, one person, Jesse from Burnsville, says, hi, I'm a big fan of Roxane Battle. I also do not have much money. Is there a way I can get her book for free or at a reduced price? Jesse wanted me to ask.
Text your address.
Okay, so or go to your site. Go to the site.
My site is roxanebattle.com, and that's spelled with one N. Or just go to pocketsofjoy.com and send me a message, Jesse, with your address. You can also buy the book on Amazon.com.
All right, and it's a small little book. I'm guessing for everyone else out there, it's probably not that spendy. Another person says, what did you come to realize about God's character that you did not fully realize before the divorce?
Oh my, God's character that I didn't fully
Deep
realize.
question.
Yeah, and I have the answer to that. And obviously God's love is real, but He also tests us, and He tests your strength and your strength. And when you pass that test, you grow and you get stronger, and you're ready for the next test. I learned that very much so.
Really nicely put. Georgianne is calling from Hopkins. Georgianne, how are you? Thanks for calling in.
Oh, you're welcome. Hi, Roxane.
Hi, Georgianne.
Hi, I'm an old classmate from Lexington Elementary. I remember you.
Wow, reunion on the air. Do you have a question or a comment for Roxane, Georgianne?
Yes, I just wanted to say congrats on the book, and I'm anxious to read it and find out how you more on how you went through, got through some hard times in your life.
There's also fun in the book, Georgianne. I take you on some, there's obviously the New York trip. We go to Playa del Carmen.
Yeah, Playa is interesting.
Visit a little hottie named little Fabio. We go to Orlando. I take you out to L.A. when I interviewed a very famous person, take you behind the scenes on that. So there's lots of behind the scenes TV stuff as well as my personal life. Hey, Georgianne, before I let you go, do you know that Mary Ott, my 4th grade teacher, came to my book signing?
Oh, my God.
That is just awesome. I love it. This is one of the best parts of WCCO, The Good Neighbor. We bring people together, your high school, your grade school classmates. You can find them through WCCO Radio. Oh my gosh. Really good stuff. From your reporting days, Roxane, was there any particularly kind of poignant or pivotal interview for you? And I get asked that question too, so it's okay if you don't have one answer, but was there anything that sort of made you say, oh, or woke you up when you were doing some of these interviews?
Some of the interviews that I've done for the book, I've been asked that similar question about what do I miss about TV news, and I want to come at it that way. I miss the real stories. I could tell you, I've interviewed so many famous people and book authors, everything from the Duchess of York to Jerry Lewis to Jay Leno to Mariah Carey I've interviewed some very, very famous people. But those aren't the ones that stick with me. It's the everyday people. It's the everyday people and their creativity and their stories and the stuff that they come up with, the things that they've gone through, what they've survived. That's what stuck with me. That people have gone through incredible things in this life. Everybody has a story to tell. And
they get through it.
And they get through it. And so that inspired me to write my own story.
Right, which is pretty amazing. And it's a great story. It's called Pockets of Joy, Deciding to be Happy, Choosing to be Free. Roxane Battle. You can find it at roxanebattle.com. That's Roxane with one N, Battle with two, or at Amazon. Yep. And
Amazon.com.
Right, Amazon.com. What are some kind of final thoughts as we wind down this holiday weekend for our listeners out there?
I think we sometimes get ourselves in difficult situations because we think that life is supposed to be perfect. We buy into the Hollywood imagery. We buy into the magazine life. And I think that I've learned through my journey thus far that life isn't perfect. But if you look around you, there are these little pockets of joy around you. The sunrise, the sunset, the smell of peonies in the springtime, a hug from a friend, taking your heels off, grateful for a nap in the middle of the day, a warm cup of coffee, a hug from a friend you haven't seen in a long time, a surprise email, a Facebook post. There are these little things that occur throughout life that if you just take pause and celebrate them and then hang on to them and remember them when the joy is so hard to find, that's going to get you through.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just being open to those pockets as they occur. I mean, sometimes we find that we're either in a hole or in a bad place and we don't have the eyes open for those moments of joy.
Right. And, they asked, I got the question about, what I learned from God. And certainly my faith has sustained me through all that. I know that there is someone somewhere out there bigger than me who's holding my hand through all of that. And that's really been a sustaining factor for my life.
Which is just amazing. So great that you came in and shared your story, Roxane. Roxane Battle, author of Pockets of Joy. You can find it at roxanebattle.com or amazon.com. Wonderful to have you in studio today. And the podcast of this interview will be on